So Meghan Markle's behaviour, this is not a new thing. And I think most of us by now, if you're watching these type of videos, you know that. But let's look at the fact that Samantha Cohen has spoken out about her bullying behaviour. And she was someone that was witness to it. So why is this not being taken seriously? And why is it not being escalated? Like a lot of the media that we see in the sycophantic posts that are put out about her new as ever brand, and we know that the mainstream media is completely dishonest. So why is it when somebody comes out with an article that pretty much showcases actually her and Harry's behaviour, why are we not seeing this escalated and why is nothing being done about it? Well, in this video, I'm going to explore that a little bit further using my 20 years experience as a UK therapist, but also the knowledge and tips that I have learned in the world of psychology in why Meghan, I believe, is a malignant narcissist and why this is something that actually should be showcased more rather than being hidden. So if this is the type of channel for you, then don't forget to firstly like these videos so they do not escape the algorithm, but also think about subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future uploads. That being said, let's get to what you're here for and let's sit back, relax while we get into bite-sized tea. So what piqued my interest with this was when I was watching the way Meghan Markle was being promoted in regards to the as ever change of name. What I noticed was the fact that the mainstream media didn't really seem to call her out on lying. Yes, they did mention the fact that she had changed the name, the fact that there was issues with regards to the American Riviera Orchard name, but they kind of just dusted over it and it just didn't seem to go anywhere as regards to, no, hang on a minute, she's coming on and doing this Instagram video. This feels like that she's lying because she's not mentioning the real reason why she's had to change the name. There's been lots of other areas where we've seen this happen. Her lies, their lies even, not being called out and circulated everywhere as much as they do when there's something very sort of positive and sycophantic about them. That seems to get escalated and showcased around the globe practically, but not so much when it comes to calling them out on their behaviour. And what also drew my attention to this was I found an article that was written back in 2022, and it was by somebody who spoke to Samantha Cohen. Now, to me, this is incredibly interesting because even though we know that Samantha Cohen, who was an instrumental part of working with the late Queen, and she was tasked with looking after Harry and Meghan, and we also know that she left that position. But when all the bullying was being escalated, she briefly touched on it but didn't say too much. But I found this, and again, this wasn't really well circulated. So in this interview, she is spoken to, and so for those of you who don't know who Samantha Cohen was, she was very close to the royal family. In fact, no, she still is. She attended the late Queen's committal service. She was the late Queen's assistant private secretary for many years, and then was given to Harry and Meghan to be their private secretary temporarily after their wedding. It was a sign of respect and an honour to have the late Queen's former private secretary on their team. Samantha Cohen confirmed that she was indeed one of the 10 palace staff that were interviewed about the bullying claims regarding Meghan Markle. And basically, she said no one wanted to work on Meghan's team. To me, that speaks volumes. Now, this woman is not just some person that was given the job for 5 minutes and just decided to have a conversation about it. She was a very well trusted member of the staff working for the royal family. And not just that, the late Queen. So she was very entrusted. So to me, when this woman says something, I would take that with, this is factually true. So she also states that Meghan's behaviour was becoming very apparent to all of the people involved. She said, I was only supposed to stay for 6 months. So again, she was meant to be in for a temporary position until they found a person who was going to take the position. But she stayed for 18 months because nobody wanted this position. So that tells us again that it was being circulated that Meghan was being incredibly difficult to work for. She said when they found somebody, this is around when they went on tour to Africa, they wanted to show them the ropes of how things were, you know, how Harry and Meghan worked, etc. The person quit whilst they were in Africa. So again, something must have happened for that to happen. When you're wanting to work for the royal family, that's a very, in my opinion, unless, I mean, it's not something that I would want to do, but I'd imagine for some people, it's a very prestigious, sought after job. And something that if you're sort of said, you know, hey, yeah, you've got a position working for the royal family, you'd think, wow, this is what a great thing to have on my resume. So if I think for a person to quit before they kind of even got started, I really do feel speaks volumes. So Cohen shared this with the Herald Sun, a newspaper in Australia. She did refuse to elaborate further. But again, I think that that shows the credibility, because usually if somebody's a gossip, they want to elaborate further. They want to talk and talk and talk and talk, because that's who they are. So if you're somebody that, like, again, she's very well respected. And so she's saying, look, you know, I'm saying this because this is true, but I'm not going to elaborate further, because obviously I imagine that she's been told not to elaborate further. So in Courtiers, Valentine Lowe even explained that Cohen had been harshly treated by Meghan, and also that Cohen warned other staff to document their time with her. So this tells you again that this was happening to not just people around Cohen, but this was Samantha being treated like this herself. And I'd imagine that she's not somebody that would take that lying down. She's not somebody that would crumble under this, where a lot of people were being brought to tears, people were leaving. I mean, we saw that as factually true. There was a numerous amount of staff that were leaving. Now, that was unheard of with regards to the royal family until Meghan turned up. So the fact that Samantha Cohen was telling staff to document, and the reason being, not just because of her behaviour as such, the bullying, but also that she was setting people up. And it says here that Samantha Cohen warned other staff to document their time with Meghan because she seemed to be setting them up. Now, even if you break that down, that shows you that more than likely Meghan was probably getting up to things, and when it was being found out or when it was being questioned, she blamed the staff for it. And again, we have seen that in other, when it was in Australia, when there was the tea-gate, or the putting egg yolk or something in the eggs in something, and she completely flipped out, etc. This shows you that there is a pattern of behaviour. That does not just come from nowhere. That type of behaviour comes from when you're younger. And I think when we look back at Meghan's behaviour when she was a child, we saw there was a sense of entitlement. There was a sense of, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get away with it. Now, obviously, there are things that have come out in regards to gluing the eyelashes or eyelids shut of a sorority sister. And again, whether it's because I'm in the UK, when I try to Google this, I can't actually find anything. But that's not to say, because we know that a lot of things were being wiped from the internet when it comes to Meghan's behaviour. And apparently it was Meghan's father paid them off. So, but again, is this something that someone like a narcissist would do? Yes, if there's usually a level of sociopathy or psychopathy involved, absolutely. Especially because with somebody like Meghan, you can see that she would become a bully. You can see that. And generally, narcissists have a facade. So they don't generally bully people publicly in front of other people unless they absolutely lose control. And then there comes the gaslighting. And this is where I truly believe that where she was blaming other members of staff, so she would potentially lose her temper, but then blame other people for the fact that this happened. And we know that that can happen in narcissistic relationships. If any of you guys have been in one, you know that when they lose control, they will blame you for the fact that you've lost they've lost control. So I would imagine that this is what would have happened throughout her childhood, even, that she would get angry, she would have a tantrum, and her dad would potentially pacify her either by gifting her something or not giving her consequences. And again, that is usual when it comes to the fact that there's another absent parent. And we've also heard a lot of the stories of the fact that Meghan's mum was absent during a lot of her childhood. So I'd imagine that Thomas Markle was potentially overcompensating And of course, when you do that, you don't realize that your child is going to grow up to be the type of person that she's now become. So you probably think at the time, especially because she was probably quite charming at times and she was probably acting quite loving at times to him. So he probably thought that she was always going to be supportive and loving to him. Of course, not realizing that as soon as his money dried up and he was no longer of use to her and she saw him as this ailing, weaker person, she jumped ship and then went to her mother. And of course, I think around that time, her mother had come into some inheritance and some, you know, one was, or something along those lines. And so Meghan then decided to then alienate her father. Even though she still had interaction with him, it wasn't the way that it used to be. So this, to me, all makes sense, that Meghan's behaviour has always been this way, and it is always going to be this way. All the time, you have got now the mainstream media just not calling her out, which is why I and many others do the videos that we do. And like I say, I'm sure many of us know somebody who has done the worst things, and yet, even if it's someone in your family, and yet they get made allowances for. This is very dangerous because it is sending that message to somebody that you can do whatever you like and there are no consequences. And now, because she's under the protection to some degree of being part of the royal family, she's still not getting consequences for her actions. And so she's allowed to bully people, allowed to do the things that she does and get away with it. So let me know what you think in the comments. And sorry this video ran on slightly longer than I normally do. I got a bit carried away in what I was talking about. But if you do want longer videos, then please head across and check out my Tea and Therapy channel. The link is going to be right at the end of this video. You'll see a little circle and it will have the, just click on that and it will take you straight there to subscribe to that channel. If you'd like to treat me to a cuppa, the link is in the description box below. You also have a PO box there if you'd like to write to me. Also my email address if you'd like to connect with me there. And that being said, thank you so much for joining this channel. Please help me get to my next 5K subscribers on this channel, and let's keep the views coming in to get this one up and running. So thank you so much, and as always, I love you, I appreciate you, but most of all, I respect you. Take care. Bye-bye.